surprisingly, we had some issues getting the bell housing off, mostly because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So when in doubt, read the manual, and that'll help. So I had no idea how this thing goes together. I've never worked on a clutch before. I've never done most of this before. Some of it I actually understand the basic mechanical aspect of it, but a clutch is something that still eludes me. Anyway, so the bell housing, as you saw, was not coming off very easily. We finally got it off. So how this thing goes together is you have your clutch fork, your clutch fork shaft, which goes through here and holds it in, and a clutch fork shaft retaining bolt that goes in here and puts pressure on the shaft so it doesn't fall out. So when I tried to remove that, and there's two bolts on it, one to lock it down and one to just have on the end, that thing broke off, so it's kind of clue number one. So you're supposed to remove that and then put an 8mm bolt into the end of the shaft, here, 8mm bolt, and then pull it out. And I had assumed that this car had been pretty well taken care of, at least for most of its life. It had a car phone in the damn thing for all purposes. So somebody with some resources actually took care of it, and it sat for a couple years before I got it. And so I had assumed that getting to 204,000 miles before the odometer stopped working, so it's got even more miles than that, that the clutch had probably been replaced at some point. Well, it hadn't. It still has the original rubber clutch on it, and therefore this shaft has not been out in 34 years. So two ways to do this. One, you can do the way I ended up doing it, and I'll show you that in a second. And two, you can remove the bell housing with the pressure plate, so it's on there like that. You can get it loose enough you can turn it, and all your pressure plate bolts go in here, and then you can take the whole pressure plate off. And then I put one back in for demonstration purposes. You can take the whole assembly off, and then it gives you a little bit easier access to get that bolt out. However, again, not knowing what I'm doing, there are 9 bolts and not 8. So when I had 8 of them out and I didn't see the last one that was still in there and I still couldn't get it off, I had to go with plan B, which was get it off in place. So now that this comes off, pressure plate, ring gear is there, clutch, the original rubber. It's actually not in bad shape for 204,000 miles. So what you do is you get a long extension, and my regular hammer didn't do it, so I had to use a 4-pound sledgy, as my kids would say. So the shaft runs through here. So on the other side, you can get this sucker down in there, and there's a little retaining pin to keep the shaft from coming all the way back out. I'll try to show you this. Let's see if you can see down in there. There it is. Let me turn my flashlight, which I took inside. So anyway, you might have to take my word for it. This goes down in here. There's a little retaining pin, so you got to get it around the pin. Actually, you can see the pin. The pin is in right there. So you got to get it around it. So it's pretty tight. Even if I have everything out, you see how snug this is. So then you just beat it out with a 4-pound sledgehammer, and it eventually comes out comes out the other side. So now we can finish disassembling the engine, hopefully with less headaches, but I'm sure there will be some. These are triple squares. I believe they're 12 point, and I just bought some of those. Hopefully I can find them. I can't emphasize power tools enough. Air tools. Believe it or not, that's the manual method, to hook a bolt on the back and tap it out with vice grips on your bolt. Now we just need some more bolts to hook this onto the engine stand. You got to be able to go through the stand and back into the holes here. So the two on the bottom are long enough, but the two on the top are not. So I'm going to try and go grab some of these bolts to get the sucker on the stand. We finally have the engine on the engine stand, and we're ready to continue disassembling. I'm going to work on the head studs first. I already got 2 of them out. The first one required some heat, but the second one did not, so we're going to continue on. Basically using a pretty straightforward 2-bolt method. Put a little heat on the stud and some penetrating oil down in the holes. So I had to apply heat on this one, but not on this one. On the lower side, with the way the oil's in the bottom of the block, I don't think they were as rusted. I'm not sure exactly how the hole in the piston causes the oil and the coolant to mix. Someone may have to explain that to me, or I may see as I get farther into the engine if there's another hole somewhere I'm not expecting. But some penetrating oil down in there, especially after you heat it up, that'll cool it off, and then a couple taps on the hammer on top to shock the threads awake, and then put a little bit of force on there. Keep in mind, you don't want to twist it so much if the top is twisting and the bottom is not, that you could break the thing off, and you don't want to do that. Before you take it all the way off, you want to make sure you get the bolts unsnug from each other. These are still hot, so don't burn yourself. So I've gotten most of the head studs out. Definitely takes some effort. As you can see, not all of them came out easily. A couple of them stripped the threads, and those might have actually been on ones that I had heated, and I think that may have happened since if I didn't wait for it to cool long enough. Threads were still expanded, and the threads, it stripped on the bolts up on top, so I skipped them and went to the other ones, and it takes a lot of effort because it's a lot of force to try and move the bolt a little bit, and then the bolts will loosen up and you'll have to retighten them. And I look for something to try and use for a longer cheater pipe in my shop. Finally came up with my spare jack. Fits over the 19, and then that gives you a lot more force to put on the bolt, so you're not killing yourself. It's still pretty hard, and you still got to make sure you're not breaking the stud off, so take your time. But to me it's worth it, saving me about 140 bucks at the machine shop, so they don't have to remove these. So hopefully I get these last two out using the 2-bolt method. If not, I've got a stud remover on the way. It should be here tomorrow. It did give me an opportunity to practice with my tap and die set to rethread a couple of the bolts and a couple of the studs as well. So good practice on something you're not going to use again. We'll be replacing the studs and the bolts, so no big deal on that. So I just got to get them out without breaking. But while we wait, I just heated these up again because they're not coming out. I'm gonna go ahead and take some of the rest of the stuff off. I took some of the brackets off already that weren't really, they're pretty straightforward. So now I'm gonna work on the front of this motor. I'm taking all of this off before. I just want to make sure you nice and label it and everything goes where it back. Take pictures if you need to. So I'll get busy. Down to the last stud. So I was down to 2 without using stud removal tool. Got them all out using the 2-bolt method, some with heat, some without. Got down to the last 2. I tried my brand new stud removal tool on the second to last one. It worked great, and then I'll go ahead and do the last one right now with the removal tool. So this thing's pretty straightforward. It's got a little cam that basically you can stick your 1/2-inch driver right on there, and as you tighten, the harder you pull, it's gonna pinch the stud right on there. So it's nice because the 1/2 inch driver can go right on there. You can use a breaker bar, which I'm going to use. It's a little bit tricky. You got to kind of knock it loose to get it back out. But the other nice thing is it goes, you can put it all the way down. It's basically got 2 sizes you can use. You can put it all the way down on the stud, so you'll remove this whole bit of stud of twisting and torquing on you, so there's less flex in the stud, so it makes it easier to get it out. So go ahead and take this one out real quick, hopefully. Alright, there's a reason this one's last. And it's out. Now I just got to get the tool off of the stud. And it's off. I just stuck the stud in the vise and do it the other way. So it's a pretty good little tool. That was the hardest stud to get out. The other one wasn't that hard, of course. I've tried to remember to put a link for this tool. It was about $35 at Summit Racing. Put a link in the description if you're interested. Obviously, it definitely makes it a little bit easier. You don't have to deal with the torch and tool nuts getting stuck on there, and the extra torque twisting the stud. So I'll get the rest of this engine stripped down today. I got the one side balance shaft off, balance cover, balance all that. So I got the what we got here, water pump to come off, and the oil pump to come off as well, and then the other side balance shaft. So we'll get working on that.